Going on YouTube, what's going on, fellow fantasy people, and of course, what is up, the Catch fam? You already know what time it is, man. We are here for another mock draft, a joint mock draft today. We have got Steven in the house. What is going on, man?
Hey, another Colt down on injured reserve, baby. It's just another day in paradise.
I hope IR, man. It is a tough day to be a Colt fan, and I think that's why you're wearing that Derrick Henry jersey to switch it
Yeah.
over to a different team. But nonetheless, Steven has got the 4th overall selection. I've got the 12th overall selection. PPR scoring format, obviously, through Yahoo, and like we said, a 12-man league. As always, if you guys do find this enjoyable or entertaining or helpful in any way, go ahead and smash that like button. And man, we are on the road to 100 subscribers here at the Catch. Go ahead and hit that sub button, baby. We've been getting so much love and support over the past month or so, and we truly, truly appreciate it. You know, you need a little bit of steam in your life. Look at him over there.
Somebody does, please. Give me some purpose.
I mean, he's got to use the T.Y. Hilton on IR, which
it's been rough.
Basically expected. So, nonetheless,
Jacob Eason for president, dude. Jacob Eason for president.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let us know in the comments down below what type of mock drafts you guys need to see for your personal fantasy league as we are getting ready to wind down. You can hear Steven's clock in the background, winding down to the first overall pick. Let's get going, man. So, are you targeting Derrick Henry with that 4th overall selection, considering you're wearing his jersey?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Right before the draft, we were talking about it. I was like, if I have to face Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara, I really, I want Kamara here. But you know what? For the purpose of this draft, I might just take him.
I don't think you're going to if he's available. No. Oh, there goes Kamara.
Oh, man. Kamara goes early.
Yeah.
In this situation, I would actually lean towards getting Derrick Henry there, even though I do love the upside value of Zeke Elliott there.
I'm surprised, man. I saw you taking Zeke there, but hey, I'm not going to hate on you taking Derrick Henry any day, man. So
I'll be honest, man. Just seeing how bad this division's getting with injuries, he's having 6 games where he's got wide open schedules.
Yeah, and he's going to play against some. I mean, you can bank on him. I mean, Jacksonville has not improved defensively. Houston has not improved defensively, obviously,
or offensively.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Indianapolis probably the only actual respectable defense in that division. So Derrick Henry's going to have some games this year where he just absolutely eats, and he's going to do it against the same team twice throughout the year. So let's see here. A big run at the running back position here at the top 7. Really, I mean, kind of in my opinion, the top 7 best players in fantasy already off the board. So, and there goes Saquon Barkley. So I have got picks 12 and 13. Couple decisions for me to make here. I mean, I could go with both or 2 Kansas City Chiefs players. I could just go out and snag 2 really good RB1s. I could go in and snag an RB1 and a wide receiver one. A lot of decisions to make, not a lot of time to make them, as Patrick Mahomes is selected 11th overall. So that strategy is out of town. We've got Jonathan Taylor here. We've got Stephon Diggs, Austin Eckler, Antonio Gibson, Travis Kelce. A lot of good players hanging around, man. But geez, I did want to take my guy Patty Mahomes. Let's take the best RB on the board, and that of Jonathan Taylor, and then let's take the best player on the board, and that of Travis Kelce.
I love those picks.
Let's just move right along. I mean, can't get Tyreek Hill, can't get Patty Mahomes. It's a sad day. But man, I'm telling you, more and more mock drafts I do, the sooner I'm seeing Patrick Mahomes selected, man. Like, people want him on their squad. If you are going to try and draft Patrick Mahomes, you need to have your game plan in order right now, and you might have to sacrifice your 1st round selection. So I don't know, man. That's who I wanted. I wanted to stack Patty Mahomes and Travis Kelce in this mock draft. But what are you going to do?
Travis Kelce seems to be slipping out of the 1st round in a lot of mock drafts I'm seeing now. I mean, at first I would see him go like around 5, 6, or 7, and now I'm seeing him closer to the 2nd round. I mean, I don't know if you've been noticing the similar scenario, but I really wonder why that is.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what site you're drafting through, of course. I mean, on ESPN, he's ranked a lot higher. So, I mean, it also depends on who you're drafting with. But yeah, I think if Patty Mahomes wasn't selected there, that we may have seen Travis Kelce taken in the 1st round. But It's hard to say, man. I mean, people are changing their minds every day, and some people are targeting a receiver sooner as opposed to tight end. But I've seen it pretty even par. I've seen them going in the first round and the second round as well. So kind of all over the place, man. I mean, I think people are getting those pre-draft jitters at this point in
For
fantasy
sure.
football. So
So,
yeah, go ahead.
oh my gosh, dude. I just had two of the guys I wanted just go right beneath me, man. So I was actually targeting DK Metcalf there. We were talking earlier about how the running backs seem to be a lot thinner than they were even a week or two ago just because of injuries. And so I'm actually looking to move a little bit into something I don't usually do and target the wide receiver position early.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and take Justin Jefferson, who I love. It's really kind of a risky pick, though, in my opinion, because I am taking him at I think what his ceiling is. Just because, I mean, grabbing Justin Jefferson in the second round, that's a bit rich. So I might have reached, but I know my number one wide receiver is still a solid beast every week.
Yeah, I mean, I like the selection. That's when I looked at who was available. I was pretty positive that's who you were going to pick if you were going to go. Well, I mean, granted that I knew you were going to go receiver, saying that DK and D Hop both went there, and you were upset about it. So I know where you stand with most of these guys. I feel like, and but yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely something to be said about going out and drafting a strong wide receiver one even if you're used to the RB heavy approach. But I don't know, man. I think there's also something to be said about a lot of very good wide receivers being available throughout the entire draft process. So at this moment in time, I'm leaning pretty wide receiver light. But I did sit down for like 5 minutes today and think about the wide receiver heavy approach and like how valuable it would be to have like a Devonte Adams stacked with the Justin Jefferson or a DK Metcalf. And so I don't know, man. I think maybe I'm getting a little bit of those pre-draft jitters and kind of just thinking about every strategy possible. But I can tell you one thing: towards the end of these mock drafts, there's zero to none, players available at the running back position. So I know that for a fact, right? But
So I just grabbed David Montgomery with my third round
oh,
pick.
you
And
motherfucker, dude!
yeah, I'm pretty floored about that pick too, because now I can look at this going forward with this draft and say, look, my RB1, my RB2, they're super solid. I will say the alternative pick there that I was thinking about is, hey, I'm going to go ahead and grab George Kittle, who I think is going to be an absolute beast this year, regardless of
Yeah,
who's at quarterback, and maybe just start balancing out my team early rather than stacking up at depth. But ultimately decided to go with David Montgomery because I do think that RB position is the most important and is getting thin by the day, guys. These injuries are wiping out these studs early. And now, after David Montgomery goes, I mean, you're really looking at maybe Chris Carson, Josh Jacobs to be your RB2. It's a little shady.
yeah. I think it's a good pick for a lot of reasons, as that's the guy I was targeting here at the 36 overall selection. But also, I mean, Tariq Cohen. Basically ruled out for some time officially with an injury. So now we see James Robinson off the board, the other guy I was targeting. So yeah, man, now I'm feeling pretty sad and lonely over here. The running backs available, but this just goes to show, man, if you're not going RB heavy early on and you don't have an early selection in the third round where you can get a James Robinson or a David Montgomery, it's pretty rough out here, man. It really is. I mean, I sacrificed a RB1 for Travis Kelce, so I don't feel too bad about things. But now I'm looking at Gus Edwards, Miles Sanders, and Josh Jacobs as kind of the top tier players available, in my opinion. And I
Yeah.
have to go out and pick up Josh Jacobs, and then I'm gonna pick up Gus Edwards because I think he's probably, I mean, him and Miles Sanders, I kind of view them in value pretty similar, but uh, that's the best he can do. And then now I have to see if here in the fifth round, if a guy like Mike Davis or Damian Harris, our guy D10Ds, Daryl Henderson, falls out. So I don't know, man. It's rough out here.
I gotta cut you off right here, man. So what are your thoughts on Mr. Gus the Bus Edwards?
Yeah.
Because I saw your breaking news clip once JK went down. But we're seeing, I mean, you just took Gus Edwards early, dude. This is a guy that was like barely getting drafted before the news broke. This is
Yeah.
still a committee based team that goes off of 2 plus 3, maybe running backs, not even including Lamar Jackson. So, how confident do you think you can be in taking a guy like Gus this early in your draft?
I feel pretty good about it. I think if the price is right, it's an okay move. I think Lamar is definitely going to eat into a lot of those carries, but uh, you know, it's been confirmed, at least at the moment, by John Hardbarg that they are not bringing in any veteran backs or waiver wire backs. And when you look at the other running backs on this team, I certainly think they have talent, but I think that Gus Edwards is going to get fed the ball quite a bit. And I do think that he'll, have the ability to get the football in the red zone quite a bit as well. So uh, I like him as an RB3 or RB4. Outside of that, I would not select him. I don't want him as an RB1 or 2.
So I just took his teammate
Yeah.
Mark Andrews with my next pick, and this is actually a guy I'm starting to lower on my rankings a little bit because I think Hawkinson does present more value than maybe I baked in the beginning. But
Sure.
right now, the reason I picked Andrews over him is because Hawkinson does have that shoulder sprain.
Yeah.
That's a little sketch for me. I don't ever want to invest in a guy that hasn't really proven that he's a durable player throughout his entire career, and he's still so young,
Yeah.
and he's in a shitty offense in Detroit. So it's like, if you got an injury this early, maybe I just should rely on Mark Andrews, who is kind of the last man standing in terms of weapons for Lamar Jackson. So I'm
Sure.
liking his value too. I think that's another maybe consequence or thing that came about JK getting hurt.
Yeah, I think that Mark Andrews is a great selection there. I mean, I still think he's probably someone you can take away some of Gus Edwards' value in the red zone because Lamar Jackson loves to target Mark Andrews in the red zone.
Yeah,
Uh,
he does.
but you do kind of have to go out and draft Mark Andrews at kind of an awkward point in the draft where there's a couple good handcuff running back situations. There's a lot of good wide receivers, and it's a time where you can start to look at the quarterback position as well. So it's just kind of the way I've been drafting. I don't think Mark Andrews is going to fall into my draft strategy, but I think he's a great player and he's going to have a great fantasy year overall. But I don't know, man. Oh, and you're on. I'm interrupting your pick again.
Hey, no, let's break this guy down. So just
Yeah.
took Julio Jones with my next pick. I was leaning actually dropping far in my wide receiver rankings and taking Deontay Johnson before him just because I think on a week to week basis he has a little bit of a higher floor, which complements Justin Jefferson maybe a little bit more. But
Sure.
with that said, I mean Julio Jones, I mean we're talking about serious upside here, and he's getting at relatively a discount for Julio. So I'm
Yeah.
excited with that pick. And, I'm also going to say, hey, I can go ahead and get some crazy depth later in the draft, like a Robbie Anderson. Maybe your guy, Jerry Judy, I might have to snake him from you as well,
Careful.
dude.
Yeah, I mean, Judy's actually coming up on the board here. I mean, he's the guy that I might have to look at here. I mean, I can tell you, I'm hoping Kyler Murray falls out to pick 60 here. If he does, and
Oh my gosh.
that's
I
a
know.
steal, man. That's an
Yeah.
absolute steal. I mean, there he goes. Yeah, I wasn't banking on that happening whatsoever, but if it did, that would have been, I mean, pretty awesome, right? But I think there's still quite a few quarterbacks here that I like. I'm still looking at the running back position just to see. I mean, a lot of those guys like a Mike Davis and Damian Harris that I would consider at this point are
Already
not.
gone.
Yeah, they're gone. They're not here. Russell Wilson's off the clock or off the board, excuse me, and I think this is a time where I'm going to have to consider a quarterback if I want to get one of these elite guys, as Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, as well as Ryan Tannehill are really the only top guys left. And then we've got Matthew Stafford infection hanging down there in that tier as well. But uh, man, Kyler Murray would have been such a good addition. Would have made me feel a lot more confident in this roster. But I think overall, as T. Higgins gets selected, I mean,
Some great receivers available right now, man.
yeah, I mean TJ Hawkinson sitting here, right? Would I go double tight end? Maybe. In our 12-man league, we don't have that extra flex spot at the tight end position, so no point in really practicing it. Deontay Johnson sitting here. Your guy Kareem Hunt is sitting here. Jerry Judy's sitting here, who I'm going to draft, as well
Wow.
as
Reaching.
my guy
Oh,
Deontay
you
Johnson.
piece of fucking shit, dude. I hate you so much, dude.
Well, I mean,
Uh
the other option there is I take one receiver and I take Justin Herbert, right? He's probably the quarterback I'm most confident in at the moment. But I think here in round 7, I can still get a quarterback of pretty good value and still help solidify my wide receiver position, which I had a glaring hole at. And to top it all off, I just ruined part of your draft. So that makes it a little bit
Yeah, you did.
affordable.
You little piece of shit.
But hey,
So
there's still a lot of good receivers left, man. I mean, just don't panic at the wide receiver position.
Well, you know what? I'm kind of doubling down if this guy's still available with how my receiving core is built now, and I'm taking an upside at that wide receiver position. And I am targeting Chase Claypool right now. So the teammate of
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson. Think the Steelers offense is going to be freaking explosive next year. And Chase Claypool, who fell out of both of our top 24 rankings for receiver, has more upside than maybe any of the guys in that 18 to 24 ranking on our boards outside of my boy Brandon Ayuk, who was unable to draft.
Yeah, I think the nice thing with drafting Chase Claypool as a like wide receiver 3, which you just did, the
Yep.
nice thing there is you can use him as a flex player who has that extreme ceiling every week, has the ability to, on a consistent basis, get you somewhere between 8 and 14 points, but then the ceiling is anywhere from like 30 to
30.
40 points
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
last year. So he's a very, very solid wide receiver 3. And yeah, I think your core roster at the moment looks very strong overall.
Dude, can you just wait till those weeks where I have the chance to have, freaking Justin Jefferson, Derrick Henry pop off at the same time, Chase
Yeah.
Claypool maybe, and then you got
Yeah.
Julio as icing on the cake.
Yeah, I think it's a good roster you've put together here at the beginning, but unfortunately, it's just a mock draft, so don't get too excited, man.
Well, you know what I'm really pissed off about is the guy that I really wanted right here more than anyone. Tom Brady just got drafted. And I'm
Yeah,
pissed off about that because now I'm looking at the QB board. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately too is the QBs are going earlier than I thought they might go. And I
yeah,
am less comfortable with Jalen Hurts than I once was. Now I'm a little bit more sketch about it. Um, the fact that they were so hesitant to make him QB1 really freaks me out a little bit, as well as I think this team is just maybe worse than is being led on.
yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you, but I still feel like that's your guy. Like I feel like when it comes down to draft day, you're not going to have a
I'm
problem
still going to
selecting
take
him.
him.
Yeah, but we'll see. I feel like I know exactly who you're going to take with this pick, but
I don't
we'll,
think you do.
we'll let
This
it
is
play
the
out.
first time I've ever taken
Oh,
this guy before. Javonte Williams for
yeah.
Denver Broncos, man. I think it's just a waiting game till this guy takes the lead running back role in Denver. And dude, do you want to say it for me? What's their schedule like, bro? What's their schedule like? It's
Very,
fucking
very,
easy. It's not
very
fucking
easy
easy.
strength of schedule. That's a guy who I had queued up to consider with these next 2 selections that I've got. So uh, let me ask you this question: how are you feeling about Leonard Fournette at the moment? Like, do you
I'm
see it?
feeling pretty disgusted that you
Okay,
even just brought his name up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just like I have full confidence in going out and drafting Ronald Jones, who got selected, someone who I wanted to add to this draft, but or mock draft roster, right? But man, I don't feel very confident in picking Leonard Fournette like whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I mean, Ronald Jones is I did a mock draft earlier today and I took Ronald Jones. You've been kind of egging me on to him, honestly. And you look at I think Ronald Jones is projected like 11 touchdowns or something this year. I mean, come on, dude. Like, if you're getting him that late in your drafts, like, you got to target that guy at some
yeah,
point. But
yeah.
Leonard Fournette, man, as much as I do think he's a stud in theory, he's just too sketchy for me.
It's uh it's a tough decision. I mean, I'm not taking him here. These running backs got dry
And
as toast, man.
yeah. And I'm
They
talking toast that I cook, baby. That shit's
uh,
burnt.
yeah, it is not good up in here. So I'm gonna secure my quarterback and Mr. Ryan Tannehill, and then gosh, these running backs are just disgusting and not in a very good way. And now there's a couple players that I really like here, but I'm actually gonna roll with Corey Davis here at the receiver position. A lot of other receivers that I like there. I mean, Antonio
That's
Brown,
early.
Devonta Smith is sitting there. But I think that out of those guys, we've got a sure lock with Corey Davis to be a wide receiver number 1 in his offense. So I'm happy with the selection. It gives me some more depth at the receiver position. And man, I don't know if I'm going to draft another running back in this mock draft. Like, it's bad out there, dude.
Well, so let me ask you this. Cortland Sutton's a guy that's kind of staring me in the face right now.
Yeah,
I've been watching his preseason tape and he's been looking good. He looks healthy.
yeah.
And before the injury, man, this guy was elite, dude. This guy was an absolute stud. What are your thoughts on him? Because I know you're so obsessed with Jerry Judy, but is there room for Cortland Sutton to also come in here and be a wide receiver 3 maybe on your team?
Oh, absolutely. I talked about this in one of my recent mock drafts where, uh, as much as I like Jerry Judy, and I certainly like Jerry Judy more than Cortland Sutton, uh, Cortland Sutton is a discount wide receiver that you can add to your roster, especially looking at the roster that you've already put together here. Where, I mean, this is your wide receiver number 4, if I'm not mistaken. Or excuse me, yeah, wide receiver 4. That's a great position to take a guy like Cortland Sutton, and
Yeah.
I certainly think, especially right when we're looking at that strength of schedule, right, that he is going to have a good season overall. But I've talked about this when I talked about my love for Jerry Judy early on, right? Whether Jerry Judy comes out as and emerges as the wide receiver 1 because Sutton is dealing with injury, uh, I thought Jerry Judy would have a good year, right? But I also said that if Cortland Sutton came out and stayed Cortland Sutton and was really the true wide receiver number 1, then I still think it helps Jerry Judy with having less of the pressure on Jerry Judy and taking some of that defensive pressure as well off Jerry Judy. So, yeah, I think it's a good pick overall. So I think you've got 1 second, and you picked Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
I like it.
So this is somebody we just talked about on our quarterbacks rankings. He fell for number 12, I believe, for both of us. So
Yeah.
getting a taste of that awesome offense in the Los Angeles Rams, which I think gives serious upside. And I'm hopeful that it gives me a very baseline floor. Now, here's the thing, though. The fact that I missed out on Ryan Tannehill, Tom Brady, and all of the guys above him, I am now in a situation where I'm forced to draft a second quarterback at some point. Now,
Sure.
those rookie quarterbacks are super attractive to me, and you can
Yeah.
get them mad late too. So that's where I'm looking right now. So hopefully you don't poach them from me before then. But I
Well,
can tell you what, man, they're attractive.
I'll say this. I'm seeing a lot of those rookie guys become targets in mock drafts a lot sooner than I was a couple weeks ago, right? It used to be that you could secure any of those rookie quarterbacks no matter what. And now I'm seeing those guys get picked pretty consistently. I mean, outside of like Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, I'm seeing those other, I mean, top 3 guys get selected as you take your boy out of the Indianapolis Colts locker room off the board here.
Yeah, I just want to jump in real quick on Michael Pittman. I think this is a guy who, before the T.Y. Hilton got the injured reserve notice, and before everything else, I think this was our first sure wide receiver 1. He was going to be
Yeah.
seeing 90 to 100 targets. This guy has elite talent coming out of USC, super lengthy, super big. Came out last year in the back half of the year after we got healthy and was balling out of his mind, bro. Had a good playoff run too. So this is a guy who I think now is a bottom line 100 target type of receiver. I don't give a shit who's throwing him the ball, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the fact that he's my wide receiver 4 and he's getting 100 targets, that's awesome to me.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, oh, he is your wide receiver 4. Okay, never mind. You didn't pick Cortland Sutton. That's right. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, dude, no, I think it's a great pick. I really do. He's a guy who I've started to target in my 20-man mock drafts. I mean, you're 100% right on the dot. He is a wide receiver 1 at the moment. And there's a lot of wide receiver 1s who are going undrafted, man. I mean, look at the Detroit Lions, right?
Mhm.
They have wide receiver 1s on their squad that who are not getting picked in mock drafts, right? The Jacksonville Jaguars offense is being completely just forgotten about.
I love
And
Marvin Jones. I love
I
Marvin
like him
Jones this year.
too, but I'll tell you who I really like, who I'm planning on picking with his next selection is Chenault
Ugh.
Jr., man. I mean, he's looked, the chemistry between him and Trevor Lawrence has been real here in the preseason, and I really, really like his value. But I really like DJ Chark as well. I mean, and I like
Mhm.
Marvin Jones a lot too, man. And that's an offense that has looked pretty good here. So in the preseason, that is. But Leonard Fournette is sitting here, and for some reason, I really want to draft him. Right, uh, I'm thinking about picking Leonard Fournette and Zach Moss and just adding 2 handcuff situations to my roster because of how few wider or running backs I have on this team, but nonetheless, I'm just going to add some guys that I'm confident in overall. Will Fuller would be an interesting selection here, right? But man, I don't know. This
Mr.
draft,
Injury, man, Mr. Inconsistency. Mike
yeah,
Williams, he's still sitting there. I almost took him with my last pick, dude.
that's who I was gonna pick, right? But this draft really dried up quickly, man. This was a nice competitive draft. I am gonna roll with Mike Williams for the sake of this mock draft. I almost took, I mean, Zach Moss, James Conner, Sony Michel, Kenyon Drake, who I wouldn't pick since I already have Josh Jacobs on this roster. But those couple of handcuff situations are just sitting there. And with how, I mean, I only have three running backs on this team. I mean, just taking a chance on one of those situations would make sense. But nonetheless, I'm fine with going out and just adding. I mean, if the wide receivers are going to have to run this roster, then so be it. I mean, I know I've got a top talent at tight end, and I've got at least two running backs you can start. But yeah, if this was a real draft, I'd be sweating right now, man, and I'd be thinking about who's going to emerge on the waiver wire in week one on or
Yeah.
at the running back position because man, did they dry up quick tonight.
Damn it, dude. All right. So the guy I was targeting right there, and I really wanted to break down. So let's still talk about him before my pick. But Sony Michel, what are your thoughts on him now that he's with the Rams? Because I think he's going to see more volume than maybe people think. I do agree with your analysis that he's probably a depth play here. But dude, you're getting potentially a guy who could become the starter just because of the injury history with Henderson.
That's
As I
true.
take Jalen Waddle there, who I think
Yeah.
is just crazy upside.
Sure. I like your strategy behind or your reasoning behind wanting to take Naheem Hines. Uh, I still think he's not going to have a huge immediate impact on the roster, and if he does, that Henderson will be seeing just about the same amount of carries, right? But I think you're certainly right that our guy D10Ds gets injured pretty frequently,
Yeah.
and then you're automatically given the running back one on what many believe is going to be one of the best offenses in the league. So I think that's probably the best reasoning I've heard to draft Sony Michel so far. So
Dude, let me ask you this, man,
yeah,
because I hate the Bills running back core. Hate it. Despise it. But like at this point in my draft, I've got three running backs that are all pretty solid. You know, Javonte Williams is definitely more of an upside play, but then got Derrick Henry and David Montgomery, who I think are just super consistent, you know.
yeah,
Um, do I take a guy like Devin Singletary, who is still maybe the third down back and RB1 for this team? I don't know. I mean, you're not getting great value here, but it's like, at what point do you just take it? Because as you're looking at the running backs, what else would you do? You know, and if you need a
yeah.
running back this late, like you got to grab it eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of goes back to what I was just talking about with my last selection with those couple of handcuff situations sitting there and only having three RBs on my roster. One of those guys is probably worth the selection just to give you a chance at having
Mhm.
another RB1 on your squad. So I'm not against it at all, but is it risky? Sure. But are you already filled out at receiver, tight end, and QB? Yeah. So I don't know, man.
Well, I went with the guy I like a hell of a lot more than that because I
Yeah.
just couldn't. I don't think when the actual draft comes down, I could walk away and say I'm happy with Devin Singletary on my team. That's a
Yeah.
guy I could cut probably week two. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
Marvin Jones, yeah, I like your pick in Laviska Shaw. I like him. I think he's a great talent, right? But you look at the preseason tape, dude. It was like every single play Marvin Jones had the ball thrown to him. It was like
Yeah.
nonstop. Like that was the only guy Trevor Lawrence could lock in on. And I think Marvin Jones, the tape he showed in Detroit is this motherfucker can get deep and score touchdowns left and right if you give him the chance. So I'm hoping we see the big play upside paired with more consistent volume in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I like the pick, and I will say, man, that I really like uh all of those players on or all the wide receivers on Jacksonville's offense. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that they're all going to have very good years overall. So I have no problem with the selection, but I hope that my selection turns out better than yours. But doesn't really matter, just a mock draft. So, man, a couple guys I was looking at just got selected. So I've got one player queued up here that I'm pretty happy about if he falls to me, or I don't know if you consider it a fall, but nonetheless, I also just changed the way our faces look on the screen. So we've been kind of floating around. I didn't mean to do that. So I also had like a panic where I hit a button and it was showing me different rankings, and I had like the worst players available showing.
I do that too, accidentally, dude.
Yeah.
Shit sucks.
So I'm gonna take my boy, who I got grilled in the comments section for pronouncing his first name wrong. So
Oh.
I'm just calling him Callaway on the Saints. But I think that's your wide receiver one on that team. So I'm happy with that selection. And then I'm just gonna check the running backs, and
They're so bad.
they're bad, and I'm going to take a guy who's got potential to be an RB1, and that of David Johnson. Uh, not
Ooh.
not super confident, but at this point in the draft, I do think, looking at the fact that I've got four receivers on my bench, I don't want to pick another receiver. I'm very happy with the receivers I've gotten here in later rounds, but I got to add some depth to this roster overall. And it's David Johnson, and I mean, I know some people are talking about Philip
Dude,
Lindsay.
Phillip's getting a lot of buzz. That was actually the guy I was targeting at running back.
He's been looking like the RB3, at least in preseason. David Johnson and Mark Ingram are getting a lot more snaps than him, and David Johnson's looking like the RB1. Mark Ingram's looking like a goal line guy, but hey, man, I don't know what the fuck the Texans are going to do this year. So your guess is as good as mine. And if Philip Lindsay's the guy, I mean, I talked about that pretty early on. The first ever YouTube video we did was AFC South, and I said I had a feeling that Philip Lindsay, could be the RB1 in that offense. So I don't know, man. Who knows, right? I really don't know. It's the Houston Texans. Are they even going to play football this year? Are they going to just forfeit every game? I don't know, man. So
I really hope they forfeit at least the games against us. I'll tell you that right now.
yeah, they could beat you.
So if they beat me, you won't see me on this for at least a couple weeks. I'll be crying the whole time. But so just to kind of give you an intro to what my next couple picks are going to be, is I'm super happy with this team right now that I put together. I mean, you got it up right there. I think I got talent at every position. The one position I think is the most sketchy is quarterback for me, honestly. So with my next pick, I'm taking the rookie quarterback that I'm the most high on, which is Justin Fields. I will say this though, somebody that I'm rising on a lot as the season or the offseason progresses, and as you have been high on since the beginning, is Tua. So I mean, if I could have paired up Tua with a guy like Jalen Waddle, I think that's like a deep round pair up that's really nice. But I think Justin Fields, I love him. I want him on my team, honestly.
I've been talking about Tua a lot less because I want you to forget that I like Tua so much, and I want other people to forget that I like Tua so much, so that when I draft him, it's more of like a surprise. But um, let me riddle me this: why are you higher on Tua all of a sudden? Is it because I'm a genius, or
I think I've just been hearing a lot of great things out of camp about his performance, and boom, I'm taking him. So now I've got three quarterbacks, which I don't like to do. You've done that in the past, and it's actually worked out pretty well for you. But I mean, before I really get into that strategy, I think Tua he's been killing it at camp. He's got a loaded offense, which we've talked about at length over, the preseason and training camp. And now that let's say Jalen Waddle and Tua both hit, I could have gotten guys so deep in my draft and then matched up where week over week they could just ball the fuck out.
yeah, I don't dislike the picks, and I think when looking at the squad he put together, I mean, you weren't going to get any better value at the RB position.
No.
You've got a number one tight end, an elite tight end. You've got a ton of receivers who can play week in and week out. You've got two very strong receivers to start your roster and some good upside guys in the flex position. And I think it certainly made a lot of sense to add some support to that at Matthew Stafford. Then also when you think about Justin Fields, I think as much as we both like him and see the potential in him to be playing early on in the season, he's still probably not going to play in September, more than likely, right? So
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to give you even more support at the position. So yeah, I think those are good picks. But I'm sitting here, man, and gosh, is it ugly? I mean, I'm about to draft like Baker Mayfield just because I love him. J.D. McKissick is sitting here, which kind of feels like a good pick. But I'm going to pick up Gronk because I feel like it. And
I like that pick.
as good as Travis Kelce is, it doesn't hurt to give yourself a little support at the tight end position. And then, in honor of you, my amazing co-host, I'm going to pick the Colts defense.
I love
The
it.
only good thing about that team outside of Jonathan Taylor. And now I'm just awaiting my kicker. So it's a very exciting time to be alive.
Oh, well, Patriots defense just got taken. That was who I was kind of
Hey,
targeting there.
I want to talk about the Pats defense real quick because our guy, Stephon Gilmore, is going to be out
Yeah.
for some time. And that's a big
hmm
deal to that defense, man.
I do think it's a big deal. And anything I say after this, maybe take it with a grain of salt, to be honest. But I do think this defense is a little bit of a system defense that Bill Belichick is such a mastermind and has such good control of secondary play that whoever he does put in there is going to be able to do his job well enough to make this defense still very, very top notch, still top 8, maybe even for your fantasy team. I mean, again, you're picking straws when you're talking about defenses, but I don't know. I just buy into that. I buy into the strategy.
Do you want to select Baker Mayfield and get another quarterback here?
Oh, fuck off. Let me ask you this, though. So I'm going to take JD McKissick here.
Yeah.
But with that said, there are 2 running backs here that are available that nobody's talking about. Ty Johnson and Telvin Coleman, who have been kind of announced the RB1. And Telvin Coleman in particular, RB1 for this Jets team.
Yeah.
Michael Carter had extreme buzz coming into camp. Everybody loved him coming out of UNC, especially me. Yeah. Now he's not. He's been really bad.
Away, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a clear stay away, like you're saying. And you can still get Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson. And
yeah,
what are your thoughts there? Because I mean, that's some serious value.
It is. I briefly touched on this, I think, in one of the 20-man mock drafts I did today. And it's still a tough decision because what the Jets have basically come out and said is that it's a committee running back. I mean, all 3 of those guys are going to get touches, right? So a little bit of a gamble, but I think it's a great point. One of those guys, and we'd like to say it's Telvin Coleman, right, is probably going to be the running back 1, but it's still the Jets. It's still a little scary, but I think it's a great point, and it's something that needs to be talked about more often. And I'll throw 2 guys at you, right? I mean, one guy who's starting to get a little bit of buzz in the fantasy community who you've talked about is Ramondre Stevenson.
I was just about to talk about him, dude. I love that guy.
Yeah, and I mean, he's basically locked in at the RB2 position in that offense. And then the other guy I want to bring up is Jerick McKinnon. And the main reason I want to bring him up is because
he looks good.
He's looked very good in the preseason, right? And I talked about this today in the 20-man mock drafts I did. But also, we know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is dealing with injury. And guess who else is dealing with injury? Darrell Williams, who's their RB2 at the moment. And
McKinnon looks better than both of them.
There's a likelihood that McKinnon comes out as the RB1 in week 1 for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's going undrafted in like almost every mock draft I've done, right? Other than my 20-man mock drafts, right? So I don't know. I think you're certainly right to bring up the New York Jets backfield. I think Ramondre Stevenson is another guy who should get in the conversation, right? And I think that McKinnon is another guy who you should at least be aware of at the very least, right? Especially this mock draft being a really good example of we didn't do so hot at the RB position outside of the first couple of rounds. And like we said, it was like burnt toast over here. So, yeah.
Just wanted to give you guys also a little insight into the defense I picked, being Seattle. So they're playing the Colts week 1. It's looking more and more like that we're going to be decimating on the O-line. The O-line's going to be really, really injury plagued. And we're probably going to be putting out there Jacob Eason, who has like no gameplay, and the receiving core is decimated as well with COVID injuries and just injuries in general. So you're talking about a team just getting to play basically a practice squad. I love that as a stream week 1. I'm probably going to cut Seattle after that though, unless they play somebody else. But that's just an insight into what defense you might be able to draft with your last pick.
I mean, the Miami Dolphins were sitting there, man.
Yeah, but who do they play week 1? Actually, they play, I think they play the Patriots week 1. And I don't really want a piece of that week 1, to be honest. And you and I both, we draft defenses typically based off of stream potential.
Sure. Sure, but Seattle sucks. So
Jason Sanders, a great pick though. Dead ass.
yeah,
I'd rather
yeah,
draft him than a defense.
yeah, yeah.
He's a stud.
172 points last year. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
hey, that was fun as ever. Had a blast rolling through this. I'll crack down my roster real quick, then I'll let you get any final notes on your roster as well.
Okay.
So, at the QB position, I rolled with my guy Ryan Tannehill. I think that's a great value where I selected him. So, feel good at the quarterback position. I know come week 13, I can always add someone off the waiver wire. I would have liked to draft Tua here, but for some reason you are taking my guys all of a sudden. And at the receiver position, Jerry Jeudy and Deontay Johnson. I mean, I feel confident in both of those guys alone if they were the only receivers we ended up with. But on the bench, we've got Corey Davis, Chenault Jr., Mike Williams, my guy M. Callaway, as I'm just staying away from pronouncing names wrong for the rest of my life. But feel more confident in the receivers overall in this squad than maybe anything, to be honest. And I went very wide receiver light. I didn't really stress about the receiver position. I just more and more mock drafts I'm conducting. That's the final, only thing set in stone that I could think of is don't stress about the receiver position, right? At the tight end position, we went out and got Travis Kelce early. We wanted to draft him with or pair him with Patty Mahomes, and Patty Mahomes went 11th overall, so we missed out. But hey, we still got a piece of the best offense in the league, arguably. Speaking of some of the best offenses in the league, we also went out and we got Gronk at the tight end position. So I feel pretty good there. And then look at these running backs. I mean, I'm happy with Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs, knowing that those are my two guys. It could be a little bit better. We would have rather seen a David Montgomery or James Robinson in the spot of Josh Jacobs, but since those guys have been taken, I feel fine with getting Josh Jacobs. And then I got Gus Edwards, man, and I got David Johnson. So it's rough, man.
Oh yeah, I was
Luckily,
gonna say. Oh.
it's rough, man. But they do have the opportunity to come out and present some RB1 value. So it is what it is. And I at least feel confident in the rest of this roster that I don't want the running back position to be the weak point of my roster. But if it is, then it is, right? And that's why I went out and just started taking receivers, got some support at the tight end position, and got a quarterback that I'm confident in. So it could have been better at the running back position, but we also ended up with a good defense and a good kicker. So I feel pretty good about this roster overall, regardless of if the one position that I like to look really good doesn't look good. So it is what it is, and we'll keep on mock drafting, man. That's what they're here for.
Yeah, man. I think one of the big takeaways from your team before I jump over to mine was that this showed me more than anything that if you take a guy like Travis Kelce early, with all these injuries that have been happening, you are looking like you could wind up with a running back core like that, which is you have David Johnson on your team, and Gus Edwards is a very substantial part of your team. And he was basically going undrafted, like I was saying prior to this last week. So
Sure.
just that has made me a little bit more conscious of maybe going away from running back in the first 2 rounds.
There's a big difference, sorry to cut you off, between
No,
just drafting Travis Kelce and missing out on an RB1 and missing out on two RB1s, but having Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. You still
exactly.
you feel a lot more confident in that situation. But nonetheless, you got
Exactly.
it, man. Go ahead and crack down your
Yeah,
roster.
no. So the quarterback position was one where I took Matt Stafford, and like I said on the live draft, was that I was not loving the fact that he was going to be my QB1 week to week, even though I do think he has MVP potential. So went out, took Tua and Justin Fields later in my draft, who are two guys that I think have massive upside, especially Justin Fields. I really love him. Not sure how grounded that is, though. Receiving core, I've got Justin Jefferson, Julio Jones, Chase Claypool to kind of lead the front, who I think all are guys that can just week over week get you 20 plus points. Big play kind of guys, not guys that I typically go after. I usually like a very level floor. But then I went back and I got in later picks. I got Jalen Waddle, Marvin Jones, pulled in my boy Michael Pittman Jr., who is going to be an absolute gem for me in all my drafts. I'm going to be targeting him just because of that stable floor. I think he's going to give you week over week. Running back position, honestly, that was obviously a weaker point in my draft too, but it's weak, and I still got David Montgomery and Derrick Henry. I'm super pumped about that at the end of the day. And then I got Javonte Williams, who is like probably going to be the RB1 for this team very, very early. And I'm excited about his upside potential too, because this guy was an absolute killer at UNC. And unlike his old teammate, Michael Carter, this guy's been showing up and balling out. And so I'm pumped for him too. I could have 3 RB1s before week 5.
Yeah.
And then swinging back around, I got Mark Andrews to lead my tight end core. This is a bona fide stud, dude. And really the only guy left on this Ravens offense, which is always a top offense in the league. So I'm excited about him. I'm excited about that connection with him and Lamar Jackson. That's the exact piece of this offense that I want because I'm unwilling to kind of take Lamar. And then, yeah, I got J.D. McKissick.
I think where you got McKissick, though, is really good value.
Yeah. Do you want to kind of talk about McKissick real quick before we end it? Because I think, Gibson has not showed to be the most healthy guy in his career, and McKissick is kind of that better third down back.
Well, I also think just from a PPR standpoint that J.D. McKissick just gives you really good value. If things, let's say Derrick Henry comes out and is dealing with an injury one week and then Javonte Williams just doesn't work out, right? Well, then you at least know on your bench you've got a guy who's going to give you some sort of pretty steady ceiling each week, right? So I think just from a PPR standpoint overall that J.D. McKissick is a good value, right?
Yeah.
And I like his role within that offense a lot. And I think that between him and Antonio Gibson, that those are going to be the 2 backs that we see consistently throughout the whole season. So I think he's a really good value, especially granted that you went out and you drafted 2 quarterbacks in a row and then you turn around and you still got J.D. McKissick, a guy who I was talking about drafting, right? So I wouldn't feel too bad about that selection. I think it actually made a lot of sense looking at your roster.
Thanks. Thank you there.
Yeah. Well, we will go ahead and cap off this mock draft as always. I mean, this was a blast, man. We love doing these mock drafts together when we can. If you guys did enjoy this video or find it helpful, go ahead and smash that like button, as it truly does help out the channel, gives us a little boost in that good old YouTube algorithm. And man, we are on the road to 100 subscribers here at the Catch. Go ahead and become a part of the Catch fam, man. Go ahead and hit that sub button. It only takes 2 seconds and it tremendously helps out the channel. And as always, let us know in the comments down below what you guys need to see for your personal fantasy football leagues, and we are happy to produce that content for you, as we will be doing anyways all season long. So I will throw it over to Steven for any good night messages he wants to give you guys.
Yeah, no. So just what are your guys' thoughts about how I pivoted in the draft and started targeting more and more quarterbacks and got 3 on my board? Is that something you guys have ever done? This isn't something I typically do, but would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that strategy. Also, who do you think has the best upside out of those guys too? But no, go ahead and throw us more comments. Definitely hit the sub button, hit the like button. It always helps out. We really appreciate it, guys. And we love to interact with you in the comments as well. So let us know what you thought about each of our drafts.
Absolutely. As always, we thank everyone for watching and for listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch.